Good morning.
Hello, good
Hello,
afternoon.
hello, Paris. Hello.
Hi,
Hi. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking.
Good, good. Thank you for asking as well.
It's
Otherwise, doing well.
it's 7 o'clock at California. I just woke up.
Oh,
I woke up in the call. Yeah.
it's 3 p.m. here in the afternoon in the UK, so
In UK. Okay.
but it's
Yeah,
still.
you guys are based in UK?
Say that again, sorry.
Stuart's in Prague, which is an hour ahead. So, but yeah, we're in the UK. Paris is in the UK.
Do you guys have any presence in the US?
Not a physical presence, no.
No, I haven't. No.
You don't have presence in the US? Okay. So all right. So as far as I understood, that you guys are funding businesses and new intellectual properties ideas. If someone wanna develop something, you guys are willing to put the fund. And am I right or wrong?
Ahmed, we've had a call, haven't we? This is Peter.
Hi, Peter. We have a call before.
I'm sure we've had a call, have we?
I don't recall actually.
No, maybe you moved towards us last year. There's a mixture of people on this call. Those that have had a call with me very recently, like Paris, for example, this last week, was it Paris? We had a chat.
Yes, we did.
And Ahmed, and then the other people like you who moved towards us last year. And we've been through quite a few changes over the last few months in terms of how founders are able to get help from Stuart. So you probably got an email from us saying, "Are you still looking?"
Correct. Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, we don't invest. We are not investors. Stuart is a 3 times exited founder who works with founders to help them get pre-seed funding. Yeah.
Okay. Can you please say it again, because I didn't really capture it. Like, are you guys funding founders?
No, we're not. We're not investors. So if you're looking for investors, then this isn't the call for you.
Okay. So what are you guys doing, if you don't mind me asking?
We support and help founders to raise investment.
Oh, to raise investment. Okay. Well, I'm actually a founder, and I'm developing an ERP, enterprise resource planning. Okay. We are working on it. We're gonna be in the market within the next 2 months.
Yeah.
We've been working on this project for almost like a year and a half.
Ahmed, it may be better for you and I to have a conversation offline, because this call is a tech startup clinic that Stuart runs every week for suitable qualified founders. So what I suggest is that you just sit back. Stuart's got a very informal training, if you like, around the hidden reasons why 95% of founders don't get investment. And then he's opened the floor to allow your questions. So probably best just to sit back, let this session run through, and then you'll know at the end of it whether it's worth you and I having a conversation. Perfect. Yeah. Oluremi, are you there?
So I'm just letting people in as they come. Hi guys, I'm just letting people in as they come before I sort of start.
Is that Oluremi's note? Is that Oluremi's note taker?
I've let Oluremi's note taker in, but he's not here yet. So
okay. Is there anyone else to come in? Sure, it's 5 past.
Not yet. Let's get started. And
okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, on free events, you never expect everyone that's invited and says that they'll show up to be here. So yeah, my name's Pete Paris. Great to see you again. Ahmed, great to meet you. I'm here really as an MC to introduce the man of the hour, Stuart Prested. Stuart has built 8 software businesses, made over 20 products between those, and he's exited 3 of those businesses, one of them to 8 figures. And now exists to help other founders like yourselves to leverage his experience to get to where you want to get to quicker, faster, easier than you can on your own. So he is here to help and support founders in that really tricky early stage, pre-product, pre-customer, pre-revenue, pre-partnerships, pretty much everything that investors look for in terms of making investments. And that's what Stuart's specialty is. So without much further ado, Stuart, over to you.
Thanks, Pete. Hi, guys. Sorry, I was just doing admin-y stuff. I didn't get to say hello properly. Thanks, Pete. Hi, guys. So I love the way you put that, Pete. I exist to help other founders. Kind of true. But so I thought I'd start off, but there's only two of you at the moment, so we can keep this really informal and just chip in if you've got questions. I'd start off with just, as Pete said, just a kind of run through of some useful stuff, you know, why founders fail to get investment. And then I'll open the floor up for questions. As I said, because there's only a couple of you, then just interrupt me if you've got questions. So yeah, unfortunately, I think the number is something like only 5% of founders that are looking to get pre-seed funding actually obtain pre-seed funding. And I put the other week or so ago, I thought I'd put together an official list, you know, get the list together of different reasons. And I actually ended up, there's 100 on the list, 100 different reasons, 102 actually. What I'll do though, because you guys turned up, let me just let in Amar is here. Hi Amar. Hi Amar. I'm just running through some of the reasons why founders don't get investors, and I'll say hello to you properly afterwards. That's okay. I was just saying that I'll get you guys that list, you know, as a thanks for turning up today, and you know, because I like to help, so I'll get that to you out. But there are some obvious. Say again?
No, I was just saying thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. But there are obviously the obvious ones. You know, I'm sure you've all heard of the obvious reasons. You know, traction, the market size, TAM. So there's the three T's. I don't know if you've heard of the three T's: TAM, traction, and team. You know, you've got to have a good market opportunity. You've got to have some traction, really. More and more so, especially less so in the US. US investors are kind of open to investing in ideas generally, but not so much outside of the US. And team obviously means your credibility. And the numbers have to be right. But before the numbers, I say, comes intuition. So before you get to the numbers, you know, you'll get the deck in front of investors, you'll speak to investors, but before they look at the numbers, they need to use their intuition. You've got to feel right to them. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about what this means in a minute, but I just want to cover some of the obvious, you know, I just want to cover some of the obvious things that are easy to fix first of all.
Sorry, I was trying to get off the mute.
Hi, Mar.
Hi.
No problem at all. Yeah, no problem at all. I'm just going to, you know, 5 or 10 minutes, just cover some, you know, some of the sort of lesser known reasons why you founders fail to get investment, which hopefully that's useful to you. And then I'll open the floor up for questions afterwards. But when an investor first sees an opportunity, there are some very clear things that go through their head. And this all feeds into this. Does this feel right? Is this something I want to explore further? Am I going to go on to look at the numbers? The very first thing is, what is this? So you've got to be crystal clear on what it is that you're doing. The second thing is, do I like, let's say like in quotes, do I like the founders? Now, again, that is a mixture of things. You know, do I think that they're credible? Do I think that they're going to be hard work? Am I going to get on with them? Are they reliable? You know, things like that. Again, I'll go into detail in a minute on this. And then the third thing they ask is, what are the risks and the returns of this opportunity? Now, some of those, some of the reasons for not getting investment are really easy to fix. And the main ones, the main problems that I see I see founders reaching out to every investor they can get hold of. You know, they find an investor, they're like, I'll send the deck over. And honestly, that's a big problem, because that leads to, you know, I speak to investors all the time, and I hear investors saying, yeah, I get 1,000 decks sent to me a week. And it's not good for anybody if you send your deck to the wrong investor, because you won't get a response, or you'll get a no and with no feedback. You're just wasting your time, you're wasting investors' time by sending to the wrong investor. So you've got to be, I have a process that I follow, which is, you know, kind of leads to the result of choosing the right investors for you. But that will include things that you've got to be the right stage for them, you've got to be the right location, the right check size, the right industry. You know, some investors are B2B only. If you're B2C, then that's no good. You know, so you've got to research the investors that you're reaching out to, or the angel groups that you're reaching out to, or angels or VCs or whatever that is. And again, the investor type is important. You know, depending on your raise amount, that will determine whether you're looking at angels, angel groups, VCs, micro VCs, etc. So you've got to get that right, and that's easy to fix. Once you've done that, in my opinion, the most important thing outside of kind of the numbers and are two things. There's the credibility, your credibility, and the risks. Now, in my notes here, I've got credibility first, but I think I'm going to just talk about risks first, get that out of the way. There are lots of risks with a startup. Now, one of the things that I do with the founders that I work with is risk analysis. You know, full risk analysis, because you've got to be aware of the risks that are inherent in creating a startup, and you've got to either mitigate those risks or have a plan to mitigate those, understand the likelihood of it coming to fruition, the impact if it did. So you've got to do that risk, in my opinion. So important to do a risk analysis, and this is something that's often missed. Now, some of those risks and the way you mitigate them will be baked into your pitch deck. You don't need to bake them all in, because there are, you know, I've just done a risk analysis for the client today, and there are something like 30 kind of general risks which you kind of need to cover, so you wouldn't put all those, but you've got to be aware of them. Not least because investors will ask you about them. And this feeds into your credibility. If you say, yeah, I've done a risk analysis, I know about this risk, and this is the specific risk for me, and this is how I'm going to mitigate it, or I have mitigated it, and I understand, you know, it's a high priority for me because there's impact if it happens. So this all adds to your credibility with investors, and all adds to that. Do I like this founder? You know, do I want to work with this founder? Do I believe in this founder? You know, and I literally, you know of investors that ask founders, have you done a risk analysis? You know, and you don't want to say no to that, obviously, but you don't want to lie, so you have to do it. So that's quite important to do before you speak to any investors, and also before you do your pitch deck, because you'll need to, in my opinion, you need to be open and honest about things, not kind of lead with the problems, but not hide them. So it's good to do that before you finalize your. So let me just let someone in.
Can I interrupt you here?
Yes, of course.
Appreciate it. Well, you want to say you said that the investor should like the founder, so it's you want to say it's an emotional decision then.
Yeah, there's part of the decision is emotional. Yes,
emotional
absolutely.
decision.
And often, especially with angel investors, that comes first. This isn't like a hard and fast rule, but they have to have a good feeling about you and your startup. Yes, the numbers have to be right, but you know, honestly, you know, there's not many people who like trawling through spreadsheets and looking at numbers and doing all the logical things, a lot of people are emotional people. So that more often than not, I believe that comes first. They look at it and say, is this something that especially with angels, something that I'm passionate about? Is this founder someone I want to work with? Kind of thing. So the way humans work is, honestly, they typically use emotion to make a decision and then logic to back that decision up. Now really kind of experienced and sensible people will sort of force themselves to not make the final decision until they've looked at the numbers. But yes, emotion plays a big part. And yes.
Sorry to cut you. Please finish. I'll continue.
Okay. So is my usual. I'm passionate about this stuff. So just say shut up and I've got a question now. Do you have a question?
Yeah, no, I was just going to follow on with what you were saying there. So is it a psychological thing? Because obviously my thing is okay, it's about, liking the entrepreneur, but is there something that triggers a like specifically when in a pitch, for example? Yes, there's a pitch deck and there's obviously an explanation about what the business is, etc. But is there something that psychologically just makes them say, you know what, it's you, like I like you, I like what you're doing, I like you as a founder?
Yeah, what I do know, I can't put my finger on it, but a couple of things I would say to that is, one is there are many pitfalls. There are many red flags that can pop up. There are many ways you can trip up.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I haven't got time to cover all of those now, but if they think you're trying to pull the wool over your eyes, or if you just don't know your numbers, or if you're inconsistent in what you're saying, or if you are unsure about the strategy, or you're not confident, or there are many things, or we don't believe the numbers, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
So you've got to be careful. You've got to be and my job working with you is so that these red flags and you avoid them, and you are able to prioritize them properly, and you kind of get to know yourself and where your strengths and weaknesses are.
I see. Right.
So part of it is coaching and strategy strategy of pitching, as well as your the actual business itself.
Stuart, I have one question there. As a founder, right, there is a ideation stage.
Yes.
Then there's a discovery stage.
Yes.
And then you start conceptualizing how it looks. So you have a POC stage where you try to, if you're building a tech or something like that, you have a R&D or POC, whatever you call it, right? So at which stage you think we can go to the investors with the pitch deck and other things, right? So that is what I would be like more like to understand, like what is the stage that you would recommend from your experience when we should be going for asking the investors to invest?
Great question. So there's kind of two ways of approaching investors. Your common way is create a pitch deck and send that out. Now, my view, your pitch deck is just a window on the business. So you have to have done all the work behind it before you can finalize your pitch deck. So you have to have your strategy in place, you have to have your business plan in place, various other bits and bobs. And then the pitch deck is kind of that window on that, which is answering questions that investors would have. As I mentioned before, what is this? What's the opportunity here? What are the risks? That kind of thing. That's the kind of common way. And there's a process for that. It's quite a long journey, as I'm sure you're aware. But also, in an ideal world, and you can't send your pitch deck out until you've done all that work. You've done all that foundational work, then you created the deck, and there are psychological things. There are lots and lots of psychological things that are very hard to prescribe ahead of time, and that's where I would come and help you identify those and get at right kind of thing. But in an ideal world, if you have the bandwidth you would start building relationships with appropriate investors. I'm not sure if you were here, Mar, when I said about the right investor. You know, identifying investors that fit your criteria and you fit their criteria, and it's a two-way thing. But if you can, once you've identified those, start to gradually build relationships with them. So follow them on social media, you know, like posts, comment, connect, maybe message, but that's you know, I won't go into detail about this, but you know, you don't want to be stalking them, you don't want to be asking asking questions that are kind of contrived questions. And if you can do that, coming back to this emotional side of things, Ahmed, that you're saying, if you can do that, your probability of your deck getting looked at and considered seriously go up, because they'll see the deck. Oh yeah, I know Ahmed, I know Mar, I know, Paris. I'll take a look at this. You know, the human side is like, oh, I know this person, I'll give them more of my attention. And arguably it shouldn't be like that, but it is like that. So don't be sending a deck out prematurely, but do try to identify the right investors for you and try to gradually build a relationship with them. Even you can ask, would you like to go on my investor update, my monthly investor update? And if you've got, again, the bandwidth, you would produce a monthly investor update. Now, the sad fact is, of the tens and tens of founders that I work with and the hundreds of founders that I've spoken to in the past, it's very rare that founder has the bandwidth to do all this stuff. So you have to take a view on how much of this stuff is worthwhile doing. Does that answer your question, Amar?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And Paris, you had your hand up, but you've put it down.
Yes. I did want to ask. So, in regards to the pitch deck, what makes a good pitch deck in terms of what needs to be on there, and the length of a pitch deck? How long should that be? Because I know there's that rule, the 10-10-20 rule, but I don't know. Yeah, it would be good to hear from your experience.
Yeah, great questions. Great questions today, guys. So you don't just have one pitch deck, or at least in an ideal world, you wouldn't have just one pitch deck. In an ideal world, you'd have the pitch deck that you send out to investors, the pitch deck that you present to investors, and the pitch deck that you kind of give them if they ask for more information or after you've pitched, you know, if they want to dive in detail.
Right.
Added to that, this is why your bandwidth gets lower and lower. Added to that, you sometimes might have a different version if you're sending a deck to, let's say, a VC or a micro VC versus one that you're sending to an angel group or an angel investor.
Right.
Added to that, you might, I don't do this much because it's just too much work, but you know, in theory, you might have a different deck for an individual investor or angel group if you think that, you know, their focus is in a particular, you know, let's say, because some of the founders I work with, they're not squarely aimed at one industry,
right?
Or they actually, there's a minimum need of investment, but they're trying to get a bit more investment. So you might, you know, an individual investor, you might say, I'm going to tweak my deck slightly, but in general, there's no one size fits all in my experience. You know, I've had situations more than once where the same deck, one investor has said, this is too much information. Another investor has said, this is not enough information, the same deck.
Yeah.
So you've got to take, again, this comes down to, this is a science and an art. You know, there's a science to it, and I'll cover the what should be in the deck and briefly in a minute. But the art is based, you know, with my help or based on your experience or whatever, trying to get that balance right. And let's take the deck that you send out to investors. That's the first deck you're going to do. That has to be skimmable, because the sad fact is you're probably, if you get your deck looked at by an investor, it's probably for approximately 1 minute. You get 1 minute.
Right.
You can't do a lot in 1 minute, especially if you've got 15 slides, for example. So I like to make sure that it tells a story with just the titles of the slides, so that in reality your deck will be skimmed.
Right.
Because investors saying, what is this? What's the problem you're solving? So they might spend, 10 seconds on your problem slide. What's the opportunity? Might spend 10 seconds on your market size slide. Okay, it's a big market. You're hoping to capture this percentage. This is believable. Okay, good opportunity. They'll look at the team slide. Do I like the investor, the team? Sorry, the founder or the team?
Yeah.
Are they credible? But that's about it. They might look at your traction. Okay, what have you done so far?
Yeah.
And what have you achieved? But if you can tell a story with the titles, you're ahead of the game.
Okay.
So Stuart, one thing, because you keep telling about you reach out to, and like investor is something that very subjective, right? Because obviously you don't find investors sitting in offices just like that. So I think the main challenging part, and you can say whether it's challenging or not, but you said building a rapport and other things you have covered already, but where you find the investors, right? It's not like how do we find the investors? Like, is that a journey that you will be helping us through? That these are the places, these are the areas that you can find the investors, right?
Yes.
Investors, because you are going to get a startup done in this area or this domain, or is it like something that we have to figure out on our own, and you're going to help us convert the investments?
There are many places you can find investors, and I will show you many of those places. I can't say I'll show you all of them. So, LinkedIn is a great one. I have lists of angel groups and other investors. You can do it through research on the internet in general. As I said, LinkedIn, other social platforms, Google, ChatGPT, even these days, and their ilk, Perplexity, Gemini, etc. You can use those to find groups and VCs, less so individual people because of privacy, but that's what LinkedIn is for. Then there's networking groups, your network as well. Now, it really does depend how much you're planning to raise and what your minimum check size is. There are all sorts of places. There are platforms. I have relationships with some of these platforms. Others I know about. Platforms you can use. There are many, many places. But the way I work is, I show you the places I know of, but that's not to say there aren't other places that you can find. But I show you how to identify who might be a good fit, how to reach out to them, how to communicate with them, how to pitch to them, how to handle feedback, which is a whole other thing in itself. Don't always take everything you hear as gospel in terms of feedback. So I show you, I guess the short way of saying that is I show you where some of the rivers are and how to fish. I don't give you fish. I teach you how to fish and show you where some of the rivers are. I guess that's the analogy there. So hopefully that helps.
Stuart,
go for it. Yeah.
Another question. I've got two, but the first one, what from your experience and the founders you work with, what's the most common gap you see in early founders when they're raising when they're raising for the first time?
That's a good question. That is a good question. I work with lots of founders, and there are lots of gaps. Sorry, someone just knocked on my door and disturbed my train of thought. So one of the big gaps, I'll probably list a few. I can't probably list the biggest gap, but I can list a few. One of the big gaps that very early stage founders that I work with is that they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
So there are many big and little things to know, to do, etc. And founders I work with often, you know, I actually go through, you know, if you joined my platinum part of the academy, I actually go through the whole strategy, go through your whole strategy, trying to you know, do a few things there. One is trying to define the strategy where possible.
Yep.
Educating the founder or founders, sometimes it's a team, in all the different areas and what decisions need to be made, what work needs to be done, what's the priority of those, you know, what are the different options for a given decision, what are the implications of each, how, you know, how that affects everything as a whole. So I go through that whole exercise, and as well as ending up with a strategy, you know, the founder will grow because they'll have a really clear picture of everything. They'll have a clarity on everything. It increases confidence as well. So that leads me on to the second gap, is that ability to articulate things. Now I say things because it's not just about what is my solution, what is my startup, what is the problem I'm solving. It's like articulating anything. You know, investors will ask questions, hundreds of different questions. You know, I have a list of how many, hundreds of questions that investors can ask. I forget how many are on the list. I think it's about 300. And you've got to be able to answer the question succinctly.
Right.
So that clearly and confidently, not overconfident, not arrogant, but, you know, confidence. I talked about quiet confidence with the founder this morning. But whatever your personal style is, confident and clearly.
Yeah.
And that ability to do that, it baffles me. No, it's taken me 40 years to get to the point where I can do it.
Yeah.
I would say 95+% founders I speak to, if I ask them a question that requires a yes/no answer, I'll get a 3-minute answer. You know?
Right.
But I help with this. You know, I help the coaching around, because, you know, you need to explain to potential customers, investors, you need to document this stuff. So that's another gap that I see.
Yeah.
I see no risk analysis done, or even not an awareness of the fact that it needs doing. No business plan. The business plan is a big gap. I spoke to a founder today, I've been busy today, where they've received a little bit of investment, or they're just about to, and they're about to go on, you know, and I said, oh, well, what do you need? And what are you going to use the money for? And, you know, what does it say in your business plan? Oh, I haven't done a business plan. It's like, how will you possibly pass your due diligence if you if you can't back up the numbers that you are saying? Right.
Right. Yeah.
Off the top of my head, that's just a few of the big gaps I see.
I know, that's good to know. Thank you. Thanks. That's actually very, because I was kind of sitting on that today and I was like, oh, I wonder, but that's really good to know. So thank you. My other question, just to follow up on that, was to do with investors. So when investors, you know, are asking tough questions within a pitch, what are they really, really testing in those moments from your experience?
Oh, goodness me. So if you're bluffing, if you know your stuff, if you're honest,
right,
you know, I always say, be honest. Say, I don't know that. Either that's a number I have, but I can't remember it. I'll get that to you. And then of course you have an opportunity then to show your reliability. You come out of the meeting, you send an email. Here's the number I promised you. You're showing that you're someone who follows through, who's reliable. And this comes back to the likability I was talking earlier.
Right.
You know, I put it in quotes because it covers a bunch of things. Reliability is one of those things. And or there's the I don't know yet. And again, that's an opportunity for you to say, this is, let's say, an assumption that we've made or something that we haven't found out yet. And we have a plan for this. I've already thought about this. I've already identified this as something that's an unknown. That goes back to the unknown unknowns, you know, turning them into known unknowns. We have a plan for this, and obviously I will, you know, this is comes here in the priority list, but we've made this assumption in base. So let's say your customer acquisition cost, you know, we don't know for sure. We believe it's this. this is how we've come up with this number. This is how our, this is how what it shows in the business plan.
Right.
This is our plan to find this out, for example.
Yeah.
So be honest, but
Yeah.
be prepared, I think, is the summary of that.
Yeah, it's good to know that it's not like they're wanting all the answers from you. It sounds like it's kind of, as long as you're confidently aware of the stage that you're at, that can be clearly presented. It seems like that could be enough for them to feel convinced that you're trying, or that you are knowing where you're going, I guess, on your journey. Maybe.
Yeah, and that isn't always the case, because like in any group of people, you will get all sorts of personalities, and and in my opinion, an experienced and sensible investor does not expect you to have done everything and know everything. We're all human.
Yeah.
There's a finite amount of time, but you want to be honest and be mature. But an unreasonable investor will be like, "I'm not investing in you. You haven't, you haven't done this or done that." But remember that a no isn't like a no forever. So don't burn any bridges. Don't be too disheartened. It's depending on the situation, it can be a no just right now, but that's not to say you can't maintain that relationship, get referrals. There might be different reasons for that no.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So,
I've got a question, Joe.
Yeah.
So, with the amount of information that's on the internet, let alone all the large language models having been and had sight of probably thousands and thousands of successful pitch decks.
Yeah.
Why would it make sense for a founder to get help from someone like you, as opposed to the infinite amount of help that's already out there on the internet?
Yeah, good question. So I think one of a number of reasons, but one of the reasons is the advice often is very theoretical. You should do this, you should do that. Every founder should do this. Every founder should do that, and it's not tailored to the specific situation. And often advice is conflicting. Now, to be fair, if you had someone else sitting next to me who was the same situation, same advisor, there would be occasions where we may disagree on something, and that happens a lot. That's normal. But at least with me and with other humans, we can explain why. I can say to you, okay, this is the reason why I give you this specific advice for you that's tailored to you. Be open about that. So, it's much easier for you to sort of reconcile that conflicting advice. And in these clinics, for example, whenever someone asks me a question, as much as possible, I try to give a specific answer and a general answer, because, when you guys ask me questions, I want to be specific to give as helpful advice as possible, not just theoretical advice.
Yep.
Also, there are other people listening who are in a similar situation where that theoretical advice might be, they can then convert that to themselves, or I can help them do it later on. So what other reasons would... Yeah, so another reason why I think it's really good to get help is mindset side of things. Being a founder is not easy. And honestly, many times I speak to founders and they just need a little bit of reassurance, or for me to unoverwhelm them. I don't know if that's a word. To stop the overwhelm, or to help them prioritize things, where that it's very much around that human side, and that side that requires experience and intuition. I think they're off the top of my head, they're the sort of some of the general reasons. Does that all make sense?
Yeah,
Cool.
definitely. Yeah.
Cool. So we've lost 2 people. Okay. Did you guys have any more questions, or did you want me to?
I have a question actually. How can I identify the amount of fund that I want?
Great question. I love your questions today, guys.
And also the other part of it, what is the percentage or the kind of or the amount of profit that I have to give in return to the investor?
Yeah, the equity. Yeah, okay. So first part of the question is very easy to answer. You create a business plan. You create a spreadsheet. But that spreadsheet is informed by your strategy and the validation and the research that you've done. And should be thorough enough. So that's where, I have templates that have everything in that, from my experience, though it's very easy to miss sort of various costs or it's very easy to make assumptions that are kind of not realistic. So there will be assumptions in there. I don't think I've ever seen a business plan, pre-seed that doesn't have assumptions in. And it'll be complete enough, detailed enough that it will tell you how much investment you need. Now, there are different strategies. So, for example, the strategy I prefer is ask for the investment amount that will allow you to get month-on-month profitable and break even and then get to growth without needing another round. You don't have to follow that strategy. It depends really on the size, depends on the size of investment and the timing.
Excuse me, can you please repeat this, because the kind of language we are founder, we are more technical, we are head of product and head of team, head of technical team. But that kind of language, investment language, is new to me. You know what I mean?
Sorry. Yeah. So okay. So you're going to create a spreadsheet that is detailed enough that it lays out what your revenue streams are, your money coming in and your costs, and you need investment because the balance is negative. Your profit starts out negative, okay, and you're spending money and it's negative, and at some point you'll be making money, so it will become less and then eventually you'll be making more money than you're spending, so you'll have a profit. So when you make more money than your costs, that month is a profitable month. That is the month at which you become profitable, month on month profitable. Now, you still might have a negative balance because in the past you've spent a load of money, building the product, paying the team, etc. So hopefully the profit is growing because the revenue is growing and the costs are sort of growing less. So your monthly profit is growing, but at some point your negative balance, how much in total money out, is less than the total money in. So at some point you become what that's called break even, where you total earn more revenue than costs. So break even. Okay. And I like to have the strategy of asking for enough, trying to raise enough investment that covers the minimum negative amount, so that you don't need another funding round. Now, there are other strategies. Not needing another round is not the same as not wanting another round or not going for another round for different reasons, like you want to accelerate your growth, for example. I've lost my train of thought again, sorry. I'm thinking about too many things at once. So that's how to tell how much investment you need, is to have that business plan. And of course you can split it. You can say, okay, well, look, this is too much, so we'll split it. We're going to ask for a certain amount and that will achieve certain milestones, certain goals, and then we'll be able to go back to investors and say, look, we've achieved these, we've now shown that we've got an engine that turns $1 into $2, whatever. We now need more money to accelerate that growth and to get us to break even, for example. So that is how you tell how much funding you need. In terms of equity, I'm assuming you're pre-seed and you're looking for pre-seed funding. So I'm assuming you're pre-revenue, pre-product. So you haven't yet got your product market fit. I'm assuming this. Therefore, it is really hard to value your company at this stage. You know, any number you give is a guess. Now, an investor will also be guessing. You know, they'll be guessing based on more experience than you have, probably. But it's still a guess. Which is why, in my opinion, it's much better to use what's called a convertible instrument or a convertible note. Now, in the US, that's almost certainly a safe note. In the UK, I think, Paris, you're in the UK, aren't you? Yeah.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
That can be a safe note, or there's something called an ASA, but it's the same thing. And in simple terms, that is an agreement whereby you receive the investment at the time of the agreement, and at some point later on, you get the company valued, and then you give equity to the investors based on that valuation at the point later on. And it's usually plus a little bit more to account for the risk that they've taken. And there are mechanisms for that. And that way, in my opinion, it's a lot fairer because you're not going too high or too low or too high. So it's a fairer way of doing it.
Would you suggest going to like that? Would you suggest going to different investors or going to, let's say I've raised with one investor and we decide to go back at one stage, do we go back to that same investor, would you suggest? Or would you say it's always good to go to different?
I don't know about always or never in the case. You know, I think it's good to start with the same investors because you've got a relationship with them. You know, you can literally pick up the phone or drop an email and they're, you know, hunting out new investors. And the assumption is, you know, my assumption is to get things are going well, that second round is to accelerate your growth.
Right. Okay.
It's basically to pump more money into the company so that you can turn the handle and make more money out. So you haven't got to kind of persuade them that that's the case. They'll be able to see that's the case because they'll have deep visibility and knowledge in your business. Now, it could be that they can't invest for some reason, in which case you'll have to go elsewhere.
Yeah.
But this is why part of the reason why I like the strategy of not needing a second round is it's a real slog getting investment. And you know, there are things you can do to shortcut it, speed it up, increase your chances. But why would you do it twice if you don't need to? And of course, when you're growing, you can, you know, you'll have a team behind you, and that team can be running the business. So you'll be able to focus more on getting investment if you decide to do that, if you need to want to do that. So it's kind of less stressful if that's, you know, this your or one of your team members' focus.
Okay. No, that's good to know. Thank you. I actually want to ask another question about the business plan, as I know that was a topic of discussion earlier. The first 3 slides, what would you suggest being on the business plan? Including
or excluding the title slide?
Including.
One title slide, but it's important. You've still got it's still an important slide because I like to put an what I call an impact statement on there. And it's hard to get that right because the goal of that is to tell an investor what that is, what you are.
Yeah.
You know, what in one sentence, one short sentence, you've got to try and convey who you're helping, what you're helping them with.
Yeah.
You've got to be impactful. You know, you've got to sort of have a little bit of sort of like, you know, like an emotional response from that, whether that's controversy or a really interesting kind of statement. And you've got to try and be memorable.
Right.
It's a tall order.
Yes, it is a lot.
If you can get it right. Now, I've seen some great impact statements and some not so great ones, and you know, it's it's not easy, but it's doable. It's not always doable, perfectly. But anyway, so that title slide is important because an investor will see that,
Mhm.
and you want them to know what you do. You want them to remember you.
Yeah.
And one way of remembering, there's a saying, when someone comes to a presentation, in reality, they don't remember what you said. They just remember how you made them feel.
True.
And the same is probably true of pitch deck, in terms of remembering it.
Yeah.
So there's the title slide. Now, my second slide,
Yeah.
I like to do a mission slide. Now, it's not the kind of like the standard second slide, but the reason for that is going back to that emotional side of things. You've got to show your credibility, show your the fact that you will, you're determined to solve this problem. You're not going to give up. This is a big problem to solve, therefore is possibly a big opportunity. You're trying to show your credibility, you're trying to show the impact you're going to make. So for angels, they might align with that impact that you're trying to make. For example, I don't remember exactly what you guys are doing. And it comes back to that liking what you're doing. Now, if you were giving a deck to a VC, maybe not, but typically the founders I work with, they're in angel group territory, kind of the circa $250,000, £250,000. In America it's slightly higher, but I adjust accordingly, but typically that's what I do. And then there's the third slide is the problem slide, which is really important because you've got to, I call it the need impact slide actually. So you've got to show what is the problem and what is the impact of that problem. And then you've got to make the investor believe that it's a real problem, that there are people who really need that problem fixing and that they are prepared to pay. I say people or companies, depending on B2B or B2C, they're prepared to pay for that. And obviously if it's a big financial impact, for example, they're X type of companies are wasting millions of dollars a year, doing this, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or it's an emotional impact, if it's a B2C, then that's more important. So, people are pulling their hair out because of this, and X% of people are, failing to find jobs or having mental health problems because of this or that. If you can show that in numbers, so that problem, then that shows not only what it is and what the size of it is, but what the impact of it is. And that helps an investor understand, is this a problem? How big is this problem? Who's having? Can you reach the people? Do you understand their language? Is this important to them? Can they afford it? Do they want to pay for it? This kind of believability of the problem and the size of the problem.
Okay, thank you.
That's
great. That's great.
And yeah. So, any more questions, guys, before we wrap up?
Ooh. So I'm just looking at my list.
I think I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I've got any more either on my end. I think I've got my main ones, which is good.
No worries. Okay, well, what I suggest, I'm just typing into the deck. I think, Ahmed, you haven't spoken to Peter, or at least haven't spoken to him recently. And Paris, you spoke to Peter.
Yes, I have.
Can I suggest booking a call with Peter, and he'll answer any questions for you around different ways of working with me if that's appropriate. Obviously, he'll be honest with you about whether it's the right thing to do as well. And if it's not, we'll give you some more resources and things to help you. Because as he mentioned, that's not quite the reason I exist, but it is my passion. So I've put a link in the chat, but we'll probably send an email out as well, just so you've got a record of that. But yeah, do if you want to have further help from me, please, feel free to book a call with Peter. If you've got any feedback for me, that's always welcome. I'm always looking to improve the way I help. It's this has been a bit of an informal chat rather than me sort of finishing my training off, but I don't mind that at all. But yeah, any more questions about that before we finish up?
No.
Yeah, well, for the link you just sent, what is that link for?
I'm sorry. Say again.
The link, software startup specialist. What is that link for?
That's to book a call with Peter to have a chat. To have a chat with Peter. Hi, Olu. Do you know what? I'll have a chat with you in a second, Olu. Oluremi, sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. I'll have a chat with you in a second. I'm just finishing up with Baris and Ahmed. Yeah, that's to have a chat with Peter, and he can explain the options. I think Peter's had to go on mute. I think he's out and about at the moment. But have a chat with Peter. He will determine if I can help you and how best to help you. But as I said, do that in an honest way. And yeah, go from there. If you've got any questions, he'll answer any questions, around the sort of logistics and the different ways that I help and pricing and stuff like that.
I appreciate it.
My pleasure. All right, guys. Oluremi, I'll stay on and have a chat with you, but I'll say, well, guys, you're welcome to stay on, but I'm going to just chat with Oluremi.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stuart.
My pleasure. It's a pleasure to meet you. Cheers. Take care. Bye-bye. Hi, Oluremi. How are you doing? Oh, you're muted. Sorry, you're muted.
Okay. Good afternoon, sir.
Hi. Yeah, good. You are, I think you're an hour late for the meeting. This is, you've come along to the free clinic, is that right?
Yes, I tried to come in, but when I checked my time, I saw 4 p.m. to 5 p.m.
Which time zone are you in?
I'm in UK, Portsmouth, the same time with you.
Yeah, it's 4 p.m. in the UK. No, it's 4 p.m. now. No, it was, hang on, hang on, sorry, I'm not in the UK, so I've got to work it out in my head. So it's nearly 5 p.m. my time. So it's 4 p.m. your time now.
Yes.
No, I think your time zone is wrong. Do you know what? I've got a little bit of time now. I can answer any questions you have, and I will also send you a recording. In addition, you're very welcome to join another free clinic. I do one a week, but I will chat with you now. Let me just look up the link. Oh, do you have the link for this free clinic already?
Yes.
Yeah. Feel free to book another one. Not sure what happened with the time zone. Feel free to book another one, but why don't we cover any questions you've got now as well?
Yes, I spoke with I can't remember the other person that
Peter.
was saying that to me. I have started the development of an app to simulate schools, where schools can come and simulate their school and give their old school experience to people.
Mhm.
Like everything that is done in the school, on the school premises, can be replicated online. You can hire people, hire a teacher, you can bring in students, you can submit notes, you can share curriculum, you can issue certificate, and all sort of things. And we've done it up to a point, and my team is telling me that it's going to be bigger than what we can handle.
Okay.
And we're also looking at the market, how we can break into the market so that we can sustain the vision and run the startup.
Okay. Okay. So obviously I can help, I don't in any area that you have. I'm trying to identify your main need. So your main need sounds twofold. So one is, am I right in saying that you need funding to help you move forward?
Yes, I will need more than funding, the right approach,
Right.
and funding. The right approach and funding,
Yes.
knowledge needed.
Yeah. Okay. So I can 100% help with that. I don't know if Peter explained to you, but I have a platinum and a gold way of helping. Entry to my academy. And in the platinum, we do exactly that. We cover everything you need to be aware of and everything you need to do and the decisions you need to make to lay the foundation of your whole business. Then you can decide what to prioritize on, and you can, I'll create your documentation, I'll create your pitch deck, your business plan to help you to raise funding, but also your strategy to help you, achieve your goals. So you obviously want to launch the product, build the team, build the business, launch the product, get revenue, get customers in, and obviously there are many steps there. So I'll help you define the strategy, and I'll advise and guide you on the execution of that strategy, as well as the process of getting funding. So the platinum is everything. Everything you need from wherever you are, lay those foundations, help you beyond funding. The gold entry is very much around group and community and clinics like this, where you come along and you ask questions. You say, I've got this decision to make, or this problem, or I don't know this, or can you check that? And we'll have a conversation, and there'll be other people on the call. I've got this specific thing, and I'll guide you on that specific thing. So we won't cover everything like in the platinum. We just cover, what you need, and then there's a forum where you can put questions up, and other founders will help you. And I've got resources. Now, bear in mind that the platinum entry, you also have access to the gold benefits. So you have access to the clinics, the resources, the other founders, etc.
Okay, sir.
So I assume that Peter has explained those two things to you.
Not really. He just told me that that I can come along today, so that if there's any question, I should listen, and I should also make my voice heard in the meeting. But
okay, brilliant.
But at least my little voice will be heard today.
Okay, no worries at all. No, so two things then. Two things. First of all, I suggest have another call with Pete. Here's a link in the chat. Book another call with him, and he'll answer all your questions around the programs, around the two options that I have, exactly what's in there, exactly how I help you, the pricing for that, what's involved, etc., etc. So have a call with Pete. Have another call with Pete. But right now, if you have any specific questions about your startup, or about funding, about your team, about product, anything at all that I can actually help you solve or decide upon, feel free to ask me.
It's about the marketing of a thing, because I think education is becoming more of a global thing. People learn from anywhere they are in the world. So, and I'm trying just to see if we can bring the school experience on the way, because I used to be a teacher, and the structure of what a school is, what a school should be. So, and we are able to replicate that online.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, breaking into the market is a big challenge because the business aspect of it is my team, me and my team challenge, and also the funding and also the support we need from people who have experience like you.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll do the last one first. Getting my help is very, very easy. It's not free, but it's very easy. You can do that, by simply joining the Gold Academy program. But if you want me to hold your hand through everything, and do everything with you, and really kind of make sure everything is right, and give you lots of one-to-one time, then the Platinum is right for you. So that's easy. So getting help is easy. The first, sorry.
What is the cost effect? The Platinum, whatever.
Yeah, so the Platinum, if you were to pay in one installment, that is £9,500, and that covers, as long as you need until you get funding. So, that might take 3 months or 6 months or whatever. So that's, as much time as you need to help you do that. You can pay that in installments. So you can pay that in 3 or 6 installments, and it's slightly more if you pay installments.
Okay.
And the Gold is, if you pay in one go, it's £1,200, and that's for 1 year access to the to the academy, basically, which includes the weekly clinics, the group forum, the community, all my resources, various other things to help you move forward. But you don't get one-to-one time with me on the Gold entry. In terms of marketing, I think your first question was around marketing. In your situation, I would start by just approaching schools. Correct me if I'm wrong, schools are the customer. Schools are the entities that pay you.
Yeah.
Not the parents or the students, but the schools. Yeah. I wouldn't yet start with kind of online marketing, for example. You can do an experiment, you can spend a couple of $100 or a couple of £100 doing an experiment just to see if you get any traction. But I suspect, feels to me, and I have, a couple of other clients that kind of have done this, start by approaching the schools themselves. And that way you're going to build a relationship. You're going to manually identify those schools so you can find them, build that relationship, find out who to speak to in the school, understand the language they use, understand how long it takes for them to make a decision, what budget they have, what constraints they have on the budget, who's involved in making that decision, what's their priority of that. So I would really start by booking calls with schools, reaching out to them, and then only when you understand their process and who they are and what they need, in my opinion, is it worth then putting that to sort of marketing, online marketing, self-service, sign up kind of thing.
Okay.
Now, it could be that your whole strategy, your whole sales strategy ends up being business development people and salespeople reaching out to schools. That might work. And you might say, this is good enough. I can hire one business development person. They'll reach out to, 100 schools in a month and make 10 sales or something like that. It could be that that's the right strategy, but you don't really know until you've tested it. But it costs you nothing to email and phone call and, have conversations with potential customers and sell to them when the time is right. I would start doing that sooner than later, because this is, as well as finding potential customers and lining them up for the sale, you are also validating what the need is. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then the second thing you asked me, what was the second thing you wanted to ask about? Was it funding?
Yes, funding. Yeah.
What about it? What's your specific question?
The this that how am I going to I was asking about the platinum. You have told me about the platinum and the cost demand on that, and then I just want to ask, how are we going to get how are we going to get the potential investor?
Yeah. Okay. Very broad question, but as part of the platinum, once we've set your strategy, done your risk analysis, created all your documentation, including the business plan and the pitch deck and various other things, once we've done that, we move to the investor outreach phase. So I show you and your team, whoever's appropriate within your team, I show you, we do an investor criteria exercise to understand the types of investor that are appropriate for you. Then I show you how to find those investors from various different places, how to approach those investors, how to get your deck in front of those investors. I'll show you how to do that. And obviously I have lists and databases and I know of platforms that I have relationships with. So I have some, but I'll show you how to find others as well. And then once you reach out, I will coach you around pitching to investors. So make sure that you pitch properly and that you can answer questions and that you can handle feedback. And we do that until you get the investment that you need.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes. That's the question.
Fantastic. I have to go very soon. I've obviously overrun a little bit and I'm due somewhere. But do you have any other questions I can answer quickly, potentially?
Yeah. Did I need any kind of presentation so that your team will understand my product?
No, not really. We speak to hundreds of founders, all different ideas. Very rarely do I meet a founder from the start that can really succinctly articulate the problem and the solution. It's my job to help you do that.
Okay.
You've already told me enough that I know what you're doing. I can see what you're going to do and how you're doing it, and I can see where you're at. You told me enough that I get a picture of what you're doing. So honestly, your product, what you're building, is far less important than the problem you're solving, you and your team, your credibility, the work you've done to date, the validation work, the traction that you've got. Your solution and your product are far less important than many other things. So it doesn't matter too much. Now, some of the decisions you make, business model, for example, do affect certain other things. So, we need to make sure that's right and understand that fully. But don't worry that you haven't, excuse me, don't worry that you haven't done a presentation on your product and your company. Don't worry about that.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Fantastic. So,
Thank you.
brilliant. As I said, book another free clinic if you want to, but please book a call with Peter if you want to discuss working more closely with me.
Okay, I'll do.
And he'll answer any questions you have, to help you make that decision.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure. Lovely to meet you, and have a great rest of the day.
And you too, sir.
Thanks, Hilary.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Yes, sir.